So we're back.
Yeah, so we're going to put the setting and motion works together. So the first things I have are the winding pinion and sliding pinion. And I obviously flipped over the movement, so we're working on the dial side. And I'm just going to lubricate with some D5 on the winding pinion.
Let's reposition this camera.
And I'm winding the ratcheting gears of the surfaces of the winding pinion, and then I'm going to set the sliding pinion clutch wheel on there, and they're going to marry together like a sandwich right there. And then I'm going to drop them in their place on the watch right there, like that. There you go. And then I am going to lubricate the slot of the sliding pinion right there, just a little bit. And then I'm going to grab the crown. I'm inspecting the inside of the crown and its gasket, and it looks clean. I see a little bit of something in there, so I'll get it out with the Rodico. Just a little white.
Am I right with a Submariner? There are a couple of gaskets around the crown?
Three. Yeah. Tube gasket, back of the crown.
So it's kind of a belt and braces approach to being water resistant.
It's the triple gasket approach for Rolex.
And they have the number of dots on the crown tells you the number of gaskets, doesn't it? Pretty much.
I didn't know that. I thought the dots were...
The 3 dots are the 3 gaskets.
That's
so
amazing.
If you have a straight line under the crown, it means it's got 1 gasket and it's rated to 50 meters.
So here we're going to lubricate the end of the stem, and we're going to lubricate the 4 sides of the square shank of the stem. I'm doing it standing up because it just happened to work out that way today. We can actually hold it in my hand, probably better for you. But here, I'm just going to lubricate. That's the square shank right there. And it doesn't take a lot of oil. They have a lubricator for this. And then there's one more. I think I've got all 4 sides. Yep. So then we're going to take this gently. We're going to put the stem through his hole. And we're going to engage through the winding pinion and through the sliding pinion into his hole, to his home there. And then I usually take I just hold this with my thumb, slide the sliding pinion back against the winding pinion, and now we start putting it together. And we're going to grab all those parts, and we'll see what we got. And we're going to separate the ones that we need just right now. And I think there's 4 screws here that we need to worry about. So for the moment, I'm going to set aside the minute wheel. I'm going to grab the jumper. I'm going to set aside that funny jewel. Here's my blue screw for the retaining plate. Here's our day wheel. I need my yoke spring right here. I need my yoke. I need my rocker I need my setting. The cannon pinion. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to set this pinion aside. I'm going to need this spring. Here's an intermediate setting wheel. And we need another intermediate setting wheel. Where is he? So we're going to take a look in the basket. He's probably in there. There he is. There's our intermediate setting wheel. Right there. Okay. Right. So now, Everything gets lubricated with HP, so we're going to lubricate this post, minute wheel post, pivot for the yoke. There's a little pivot hole for the yoke right there. There's a hole that the setting lever goes in. We're going to put a little bit of lube on that big hole right there. Right there. And we're going to set our yoke spring. Sits home there. It's got a lever, and it works in conjunction with the sliding pinion, if you notice there. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to put this spring on without getting in trouble. So this is our yoke spring. So I'm going to hold it. It's got a home there for the short end, and then you just slide it over, and you want to just have a little bit of lube on the side of the yoke right here. It's going to spread. That's it. That's all you need is a tiny little bit, and then just bring that spring around and snap it down. Now we're going to be delicate because we don't want that spring to pop out. I mean, it's popped out before. And here's our rocker. Set it down right here. It goes on top of the yoke. They both ride on the same pivot. And then we take our setting lever. Now the setting lever engages in many ways. It's got 4 engagements. So we're going to set it down in its big hole here. But we want the pin of the setting lever to fit right into the hole of that brass hack stop. I just call it a stop lever. I don't like the word hack. Just drop this down. And it did meet its hole. And now we just have to get it in place. And there's a pin here that needs to engage both the yoke and the rocker. There we go. We set it down. So everything fit together. That's what this thing just goes together so nicely. But we're going to lubricate right in here, this spot where the pin of the setting lever rides from position 1, 2, and 3 back and forth. Okay, so now when we're not going to go crazy with this thing because we don't want to pop out our setting lever. So now we need to put this spring here in place, and it's in the position we want, right like that. And then we're going to use one of these little screws here. Put him in there. Get him right. Sometimes I hold the head by the side. And slide that out without making big, drastic movements. And then I think he's over a little bit. So it's gonna go over a little bit. There we go. Let's bring that over here. There we go. So now we'll drop him back in there, get him in the hole. It's fairly easy alignment. There we go. All right. So now this spring here, this shaped spring holds the setting lever down to engage. So now we still don't want to go crazy with our to lose the yoke spring. So we're going to put the jumper maintaining plate in, and that'll hold everything in place. This is like one section that we accomplish here. And then when we're done here, now we can be manually winding the watch. And if you notice that excess oil there kind of surfaced, so we're going to clean that off, but we're going to spread the high HP. Okay, and I'm just going to see how it'll spread through there. I want to get that pin on that pivoting. This is 2, this is 3, that's 1. So 1 is in to wind. See me winding? 2 is date setting, like quick set. And 3 is setting. And before we lubricated this here pivot, pivot on the maintaining plate there, but let's just take a look here, and we got to snap this in place right there, then everything will function. This is a neat little orchestra of parts that work together. Remember the other day I kind of had the oil coming up the, watch how the oil will travel. See how it spread? It wasn't very much oil. So now we can wind the watch up like crazy. And we're going to put the cannon pinion on. But we're going to lubricate a little bit on the post of the center right here. Because if you don't lubricate the cannon pinion on 3135, the cannon pinion will freeze up. And if you get aggressive, you won't be able to set it because it'll bind up. And I don't see any jewels that we're going to be covering here. So we'll go ahead and put our minute wheel on. Put our intermediate setting wheel on here on that post. Right there. And we got to lubricate on top of the rocker for the other intermediate setting wheel. Put him on. There we go. And we drop this plate on there. Everything looks good to me. I've got a lot of lube here, so I'm going to clean some off just a hair. Your main concern is, will this amount of lubrication travel? You know.
As in go to places it shouldn't be.
Exactly. Where is it going to potentially go? But look, it's on your post. I'm not going to set it because then I don't want those intermediate wheels to fly off. But let's put this plate on right here. And it's got a guide for setting it right there. There's a steady pin there, steady pin there. Little screw there. All 4 of these screws are the same, so you can't get in trouble here. I had I'm working at a little bit of a distance for you. Where'd that screw go? Let's grab another one. Screw here. I guess he's over here, right? Is that where it went? Yeah. I mean, I'm getting away with holding my screws by the edge because my tweezers are square. If you don't have good tweezers, you can't do any of this. So having your tweezers sharp and square and brass, one, they're soft so they're grippy.
Because they're brass, you don't have to worry about scratching steel.
Mm-hmm.
Or them becoming magnetized.
Mm-hmm. So now we can test our setting, and I have the right amount of friction. If that canning pinion was too tight, you'd have a lot of friction and you'd start ripping up the intermediate setting wheel and the end of the sliding pinion. If you have too little friction, which I haven't found on a 3135, then your cannon pinion and post your center wheel post would slip, and then your minute hand would lag behind. Your watch would be running and be running fine theoretically, but your minute hand would not be tracking. It would be lagging behind. So that's your setting. Nice friction, but I know that based on my experience that thing's going to work fine for the next 5 to 10 years if the guy never services it. But the cannon pinion slips on the post of the center, and it's a friction fit, and it will wear because it's crimped. That friction is from a crimp. And sometimes you have to recrimp if it's too loose, but I haven't had to recrimp a lot of 3135s. So this is the assembly of our setting. So now I'm going to come around and post of the day wheel home. Oh, but guess what? We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're going to start lubricating. How's that? All right. So let's make sure all our jewels are clean, because we can't put that day wheel out without lubricating the jewel that would be under it. So first, now the escape wheel has a cap jewel, so we're going to lubricate that shortly.